1 million ARR band and you actually start getting a bit serious and scaling, then you want your AEs to be focused on closing business. That's what you're paying them up to $250,000 a year to do.
Welcome to the Rookie SDR Show, where we talk to leaders within the tech industry who are making an impact. Here's your host, Franklin Albornoz.
Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new episode on the Rookie SDR Show. I am here with a special guest. David, welcome to the show. How are you today?
That's great. I've never been called a special guest, so I feel really good now. Thanks for letting me come on.
I mean, you're doing amazing work over there right now. You're an SDR leader, and now you're leading the SDR Leaders of EMEA. That's like, now that for me as an SDR, as a salesperson, that is amazing. So can we just get like a little bit of background from you, like where you're from, where are you at now, and what you're currently doing?
Yeah, so British guy. I live in the Netherlands. Frankly, not wasn't far from where you were when you were living here in the Netherlands. I moved here primarily to play rugby when I graduated university. So I was coaching kids in schools around Utrecht in the Netherlands. Thought I should get a real job, so I wanted to become a teacher in the UK. So I worked at a private school that was like Hogwarts, but it was full of monks. But then after 2 years, I was like, I prefer to live in the Netherlands than the UK. So as with most people, they fall into sales, and I got told about this job called a business development representative, and I was like, oh, okay, that sounds fun. And I joined a company called Palo Alto Networks, which I had no idea who they were, what they did. They just had their IPO the year before, so it was just, I was in this rocket ship and I had no idea. I was like, oh, okay, great. And then I only realised how real it was because they told me in the interview, like, oh, you'll go to San Francisco for training. And I was like, yeah, sure, of course, yeah. All right, believe you.
Nice.
And then I was a couple of weeks in and they went, no, Dave, why have you not booked your ticket? You are leaving in 2 weeks. And I was just like, oh, okay, this is real. Okay. So anyway, had moved in, had a couple of BDR roles, SDR roles at different companies. And then I joined a company called Infoblox, and where I came in as an SDR and I left as a director of EMEA SDRs, built out Asia SDR team. I started doing a lot more strategic work with some of the senior leadership there. Anyway, coming fast forward, had some global roles and was at Snowflake leading their sales development organization in EMEA. And then decided let's do something completely different, and so here we are now, having set up a 3,000 member community of sales development leaders in EMEA.
Yeah, and I mean, like your whole background just is like it's so great because, you know, from what I saw, like you grew so many SDRs, VDRs. But one thing that like I always like to ask, if we go back a little bit in time, whenever you're booking your first meeting, well, how was it? Was it through the phone, through email, and how did that impacted your career in the long run?
So I can't remember the first meeting I booked, but I can still remember the first call that I made, because I can remember my hand sweating, the palm of my hand having a cold sweat, and I'm like, what on earth is going on right now? And but like coming from a sports background that I'm from, I know that nerves are something that shows that your body cares and it's prepared, like it's really setting you up. So I was like, okay, right, let's do this. But if I think a couple of days forward from that experience, I think it's just how it was like, oh, okay, actually, how I convey a message and how I say something, it was all over the phone. in 2013, booking meetings. People, I could build rapport, people could trust me, what I was saying, and that was a nice feeling.
And you work alongside many companies. And I noticed that full cycle AEs are on the rise. Do you agree with that? Like, should the companies nowadays have full AEs, or should they still divide the role between the SDR and the account executive? And what is the differential between that?
Yeah, so I did a post about that a few days ago around is booking the first meeting the hardest stage in a sale. Because, yeah, I also have seen this rise of this full-scale AE piece. And look, for some mid-market kind of more faster run rate businesses, okay, I can understand why you would have a full cycle AE. The economics of an additional cost at that time when you're growing, yeah, I understand that you would have maybe that full cycle AE. But as you move out of that kind of 1 million ARR band and you actually start getting a bit serious and scaling, then you want your AEs to be focused on closing business. That's what you're paying them up to $250,000 a year to do. And I'm not saying that you paying an SDR peanuts, but it's going to be a relatively lower cost than that, and you're trying to get that AE's calendar booked. But I think but then it goes back to there's more fundamental problems in a go-to-market than we need full-scale AEs, full sales cycle AEs. There's a bigger fundamental problem with the whole go-to-market of many organizations if that's what their solution is.
When you were scaling SDR teams for other organizations, what were sort of like the things that you had to make your SDRs do at first? Like, was it mostly like getting them on the phone as quickly as possible, or was it more in a sense like teaching them a little bit more soft skills? Like, what was your methodology on that?
Yeah, so my vision for an SDR organization is twofold. It's always that they are the engine room for revenue for the business. So that's a different mindset to just booking meetings. It's how can I be that internal resource for the sales organization that really understands accounts for that to bring something that's going to end up in revenue. But the other piece is being an engine room for talent for the organization, regardless if it's a customer success. So you're bringing in talent in a way that it's thinking about not the immediacy. Yeah, that helps when we get wins on the board in terms of meetings and pipeline, but I'm thinking about how to build an organization over the next 12 to 18, 36 months. And I think then that means that if you have that mindset, the talent that you bring in, the profile that you bring in, it's a little bit different in terms of how you want them to be thinking, how you want them to be more strategic in their mindset, not thinking about I've just got to book them out of meetings. That again creates problem in that go-to-market funnel. So that's how I think about bringing that kind of profile of talent that you want to bring in. It's more strategic in their mindset.
Yeah, David, I do agree. Like, I feel like a lot of companies just when they first started out, especially like building out their SDR team, they seem to want to scale real quickly, but I do agree. Like, it needs time to scale. It needs time to be able to onboard the individuals. It needs time to see like what is working out there within their industry, within their ICP. So I feel like there's certain, and I think moving to the question when it comes to automation, now with everyone around the corner saying, hey, we have an AI for this, we have an AI for that. Where do you think AI is evolving alongside the SDR role? Like, will it will it change the SDR role in a sense? We're in quarter four right now, 2024. We're moving on to 2025. But beyond from here until now, like, where do you see AI changing the SDR role in a general?
It will make the good SDRs great and the bad SDRs lazier. And so what do I mean by that? So sales, I'm going to put SDRs in the sales bucket right now. So sales spend 27% of their time on selling, and the rest of their time is based on administrative tasks. And yeah, so I think there's some things that are really important, obviously, like you've got to make sure that Salesforce is updated. 100% agree with that. But then there's other bits of manual tasks and reporting that you have to do in sales that there should be something there that will help accelerate it. So I think what AI tools are going to win is those that can actually create more time for sellers to sell. And so if you have a tool or a platform or solution that says, hey, look, I can help give back 10% of that time from administrative tasks so your team can sell, what's the price? What's the value that would bring to the business? How much additional revenue would that bring to the business if I'm giving you back 10%? And that's going to be the selling point for companies that are doing AI tools, is how can they equate the time saved with a dollar amount that will be the ROI. If you can't do that as an AI tool, then you're not ready. You're not ready to be in the market, because that's the most important. That's the biggest thing that everybody's trying to get is more time. But time is finite. It's finite. It's not. There's not any more of it. So if you can get sellers, if you can get organizations more time back, then that's going to be the winning message.
Yeah, I think increasing productivity, increasing the time that it takes from taking notes all the way until doing research about that company. I think if we can take a little bit of time back, a little bit of some admin work for the SDR, I feel like their full potential will go straight forward and beyond, especially because working alongside AI. I think in my personal experience, AI is good, but there are certain things that you have to take into account when you're talking on the phone, when you're writing an email, when you're sending in a video. So I think, yes, stick to AI, but at the same time, don't forget the fundamentals of the SDR, right? And I think one thing that I'm currently right now trying to learn, so I just moved to Spain, Madrid, no more than a couple months ago, and I see that, one of the fundamental things that your community was built upon was that sometimes the SDR leader is by themselves here in this region. You working with a lot of international logos, what would you say is the two different things of work that when you're prospecting within the EMEA and when you're prospecting within the US, is there really a huge difference between them two?
Yes and no. So humans want to interact with humans. So if you're human in your approach and how you communicate with people, that's a big thing, just building rapport, creating trust. But I think the other big piece is Europeans are very skeptical about anybody and anything, and they're like, oh, it's somebody trying to sell me something, and there's a bit of a barrier that is generated. So you've got to really, as I said, you've got to just got to build rapport and be human with people. And if you come across as confident and don't lie, because that's the big thing. Like that, I always taught SDRs, and what I did as an SDR is, like, if I don't know the answer, I just say, look, I don't know the answer. You build rapport that way. You don't just try and BS your way through an answer. So I think that's the big thing. Just there are Europeans and Americans. Like Europeans, a bit more. The guards are up a little bit more, but I think the thing that's always the same is just be human and be genuine.
Exactly. I like that's the thing. Like I remember one of my first SDR roles. I was in Peru, and I went to Colombia to meet up with my SDR team there. We were prospecting for the U.S. region, but this was after 3 months of me working alongside the company. So for me, in a sense, it's like, in my personal opinion, I feel an SDR, if they're working remotely, they should at least see their leader one time throughout their career on that organization itself. Now, as we are sort of evolving in a sense to where like remote work, it's here. I mean, it's not going anywhere. Do you feel like when an SDR first starts their career, comes in the game from whatever industry they come from, do you think that they should have at least some type of training for a week to a month with somebody physically, or they should just do everything remotely?
They need to be in office at the start, and they need to be more in office. It needs to be hybrid at least. But the big issue that we have seen over the last 5 years now is, since COVID's happened and happening, there is I call it a blob of talent that won't progress at the same speed as those that started before them, and there's those that started after them. And the big reason why is that they were just, and it's no fault of anybody's, it's just how it was, is they graduated from school, started an SDR role, and normally when you're starting an SDR role, then you're just sitting around and listening to people, listening to the war stories of, oh, so-and-so just shouted at me, and you laugh it off, or you hear a really good pitch and you're like, I'm going to copy that. And straight away, gone. None of that. And so then you're sitting in your house, or if you just started a job, you might be in a flat with 3 or 4 other people, and you're just by yourself, and it just meant that learning that you would get by osmosis wasn't there. But what also accelerated was that, I'm not Gen Z, what am I? I'm millennial, I think. But Gen Z's, there was a big thing about how they don't call people. It's just all on WhatsApp. It's all on Instagram, on TikTok. You messaged me on TikTok, Franklin, to me, like that was how we met. And so there's a projection like, oh, nobody will pick up the call because no one calls. And it's like, no, that's you, just you and your friends maybe, but the people that you're selling to who are 10, 20 years older than you, the phone calls are still a normal way of doing business. So going back to your original question, I think it's really important that those teams, when they start, those SDRs when they start, that they are around those people, learning by osmosis, and then the world's changed. You know, you can go to the doctor's office in the middle of the day. It's now acceptable. Before you had to tell white lies about what you were doing because like you were scared that, oh, if I go to the doctors, is that going to be a problem? Like you and that, but having this hybrid working, it's allowing it to happen. But I think really the majority of the time should be spent with their peers and learning, and it'll only accelerate their progression.
Yeah, I feel like when you're in a room with five salespeople, even 1 or 2, you feel that energy. Even like if you're like, you know, you get frantic and like, hey, like, I'm scared. Like, let's be honest, there are people, and you know, even to me, like when I pick up the phone, when I do cold calls, like I still get like, you know, I still get the aftershock. Like, okay, and it's normal. And yeah, I do agree. Like throughout their role, they need to be when the same energy, right? The same energy attracts the other energy, right? As some certain people say it. Now moving on into, like, what are you currently doing right now? I know, like, you're leading this whole SDR Leaders of EMEA, but, like, for the people that don't really understand on what does that mean, like, could you just, like, give us an overview about it?
Yeah, sure. So SDR Leaders of EMEA was created because SDRs, leaders in EMEA, are often first-time leaders. They're on their own. Their bosses are in the States, 9 hours away, and they may have not had the coaching and the training to prepare them for first-line leadership. They have sales and marketing who could be more experienced, telling them what to do. They might also have situations with SDRs that you don't see when you're their peer. That suddenly, how do you deal with those kind of personal issues that those have? And so there was nothing in EMEA to help people with that support and that community. So that's why we started out the community, and we have, it's crazy good and busy, and it's really engaging. The big thing that the feedback I get is most Slack groups are dead that you join. Nothing happens. No one puts any questions, and our Slack group is always hustling and bustling, and people asking for advice, roles coming up. And then we do a lot of events as well. So I'm going to be in London and Amsterdam in October, doing some in-person events for the community. And then we're going to look to do more in 2025, just to try and meet as many SDR leaders as possible.
That is amazing. So basically, if an SDR leader is looking for a community where they can talk to their other peers, they can always reach out to you. They can always go to your LinkedIn and see what you guys are doing over there. I think it's really great, because you are right. When we're in the trenches, even as an SDR position, we wish we are able to meet other individuals within our peers, or our leaders, for them to meet other people, so they could bring all that rich enrichment back to us, so we could be able to learn a little bit. So can anyone join the community, or is there a certain criteria that you guys have to go by?
SDR leaders, any SDR leader can join. That's the as long as you're team lead and above, everybody's
nice. And before I let you go, what would you say is the number one secret sauce whenever you're building something new, right? I know it can be, I know I found you through TikTok. I saw one of your videos, and then I kept seeing one of your videos pop up on my For You page. And I was like, who is this guy? He seems very interesting. And then I saw, without even looking at the title, I was like, he knows what he's talking about. So is it really that complex, really that hard whenever you're just starting out a new community, a new business? And how do you overcome that?
Yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard. So I was in B2B sales for 10, 12 years. Before that, I was a rugby coach and trying to be a teacher. So it's a completely different world for me, like taxes, having to pay your own taxes, have to do my quarterly VAT inputs. It's all those kind of little bits, but I think the important thing that I learned from doing my role, the companies that I was at, was about, okay, what's my vision, and then what's my strategy, and then what am I going to do to achieve that strategy and that vision, and really just make sure that I'm following that on a day-to-day basis when everything goes crazy. That for me is the key part of what we do. And was it 99% of people stop just when they're trying to do something different and new, they give up, and then it's that 1% that keep going will always see the benefits of their hard work. And I think, touch wood, that 1% where things are starting to really pick up and build momentum. So just have a vision, have a strategy, how you want to get there, have that North Star, and just go for it. And things are going to be rough, but just keep working at it.
And if you could give any advice to the SDRs, to the leaders, to the sellers out there, to the founders out there, what would you be the best advice for them to find success?
That's a very good question. I think you want to trust people around you. I think the big thing that a lot of people do, and I'm guilty of this as well, is that when things get really tough, you start to get insular and you start to try and do everything yourself. But there are people out there that want to help and want to help you and want to see you succeed. Society as a whole, it's become very individualistic. Like as we see in the media, it's all about you and about what you can do, and I've done all this. No, there are still people out there that want to help you and be a good person. And I think it's just like, don't go demanding things from people, but just ask, like, hey, could you introduce me to this person? Or, hey, I've got this thing. Are you able to come and help me with this? And people will, because it's human nature. If you're a friend with somebody, they want to help a friend. So don't just do everything by yourself. You do have a group around you.
Yeah, have that group, make those genuine connections, have a normal conversation,
Yep.
right?
Exactly.
I mean, doesn't hurt to give a like or a comment, like one of the posts that that we all do, or just reach out. And how can people find you if they have any questions regarding about what you're doing now? If they need any kind of advice, what's the best avenue for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, LinkedIn's best. So yeah, my link will be, I'm sure, in the events, in the podcast links. It's just I'm pretty open, and like if people want to ask for advice or have questions, I'm always open to answer it. Just let me know that you listen to this podcast, and I'm more than happy to have a chat.
Perfect. Any final words from you?
That's been fun. Thanks very much.
David, thank you so much for coming to the show and give us all that amazing insight that you just provided to us. And hopefully we stay in contact, and we'll definitely talk to you soon.